Like to call to order the Recreation and Parks Commission meeting Wednesday, July 19th, 2017. Commissioner Farfan, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and Jackie, can you do roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Moda,
I'm here.
Commissioner Farfan,
Present.
Commissioner Looms,
Present.
Vice Chair Pierce.
Here.
And Chairperson Davis.
Present. Perfect. First on the agenda is presentations. I'd like to welcome once again the Youth Drama Program. We'll highlight their upcoming presentation of Bye Bye Birdie. And if we could, we'll get all the commissioners in the audience, please.
All right, I'm going to welcome Ella O'Neill to the stage. She is playing Rosie Alvarez in our upcoming production of Bye Bye Birdie, which is going to be the second week of August. I believe it's the 11th, 12th, and 13th. If anyone's interested in tickets, we have, I believe, some comps put aside for you guys at the clubhouse. So here is an English teacher from the musical Bye Bye Birdie.
Going in the army is the best thing he could do. Now you're free to start to do what you wanted to. Albert, Albert, Albert. I remember how you told me I should trust you for a year. It would just be for a year, but it's 8 years, Albert. 8 long years, Albert. It was only a sideline. That's what you said. You just needed some money. That's what you said. You were going to college and get ahead. Instead of being a music business bum, you were going to NYU and become an English teacher. An English teacher. An English teacher. If only you'd been an English teacher, we'd have a little apartment in Queens. You'd get a summer vacation, and we would know what life means. A man who's got his master's is really someone. How proud I'd be if you had become one. It could have been such a wonderful life. I could have been Mrs. Peterson, Mrs. Albert Peterson, Mrs. Phi Beta Kappa Peterson, the English teacher's wife. It was goodbye, Geoffrey Chaucer. Hello, William Morris. Goodbye, NYU. Hello, Almay Lucas. When you wrote Conrad's first hit, Ugga Bugaboo, then I knew that was it. You were through with English forever. An English teacher is really someone. How proud I'd be if you had become one. It could have been such a wonderful life. I could have been Mrs. Peterson, Mrs. Albert Peterson, Mrs. Phi Beta Kappa Peterson, the
Miss O'Neill, very nicely done. Thank you very much. All right, at this time, I'd like to open up public communications. Are there any public communications? If so, please hold them to 5 minutes on the subject matter under the jurisdiction of the commission. Please state your name and...
Hi, good evening. My name is Amanda Feda. I'm a resident here in El Segundo at 361 Concord Street. I'm here to represent the Moms Club of El Segundo. We are a local philanthropic group who provides support to local mothers and children in need, as well as create a support, as well as create a support network in to each other in the community. In the past, we have provided to local domestic violence shelters, school supplies to local children in need, as well as supported local homeless families. In addition to supporting children in need, In addition to supporting local communities, we are currently working to improve the quality of our local parks and increase safety. The Moms Club recently approached Recreation and Parks to propose the idea of installing a fence around Holly, Kansas Park to decrease safety concern and allow children to play freely in this park. The Moms Club, as well as many members, utilize the park often to hold meetings as well as play dates for our children. However, there is often concern of children running into the streets, and unfortunately there have been near accidents due to the unsafe conditions of the park's landscape. Having a fence at Holly, Kansas Park would decrease the risk of children running into the streets, create a sense of containment for parents, and in general allow both parents and children to enjoy the park more. The Moms Club is comprised of 127 members, from our community, with a total of 234 children below the age of 9. These are the children that access the local parks. Many children are below the age of 5 and continue to need containment and security in their play areas to prevent harm. Having a fence around Holly, Kansas Park would be a way to provide safety to local children and help to improve the overall quality of our community. The Recreation and Parks Department has initiated the process of gaining quotes for the cost of a fence, as well as determining how to continue to allow local residents to continue to utilize the park for dog walking, etc. I am hopeful at this time that you will consider our proposal and work with the Moms Club on how to improve the safety of our local parks and decrease the risk of harm to our local children. Thank you for your time. We also have some there. Okay.
So just to add to what...
Actually, if we could do one at a time, if you just announce yourself, that'd be great.
My name's Shireen Sonnefeld, and I'm part of the Moms Club, and we enjoy the Holly, Kansas Park quite often. Our board bash meetings are once a month where we have large play dates where we have, I think at the most, we had about 46 moms and their kids, so the park was very full that day. You can imagine painting pumpkins, I think, for Halloween, and so it was even kind of hard to keep an eye on your kid, even though you were directly watching them. Even St. Patrick's Day also comes to mind. Everybody was wearing green, and it was hard to see where your kid actually was. So it really would help if we had a gate around Holly, Kansas Park. In addition to that, like my mother-in-law babysits for us, and she won't even go to the park with my 2 kids because she feels like she just can't contain them. Coming off of Grand Avenue, it's very busy, as you know, and there isn't a sign posted that says there's a park nearby or children at play. So it would really be easy for an accident to happen with some of the kiddos out there. So thank you for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Julia Lillis Cohen. I have 2 kids. I'm in Moms Club. I've been at all the play dates at Holly, Kansas Park. I think especially that the Halloween one you talked about, it also, like in the winter, like the fall, all of a sudden it's getting darker earlier. And it really struck me as soon as I had my second kid. I'm like, oh no, it's 1 on 2, and I can't possibly keep my both eyes on both kids at the same time. Like right now, my youngest is like really walking around, and I honestly don't think I would even go to Holly, Kansas Park. I think I would just stick at the tot lot at Rec Park, because it's, they're just they have a mind of their own. So I think that, if you could imagine, I pitched to these guys, but it wouldn't have really worked. But I thought maybe we should each bring our 2 kids to this meeting tonight. And if we had 6 toddlers running around, and then we pictured at the end of the meeting, Now, a picture of two of these walls were kind of busy streets. It's just a hard situation, and I think it'd be a lot more fun for both parents and kids if we put a fence around that place. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Shireen, what's your last name?
All right, are there any other public communications?
My name is Don McClemens. I've been a resident for 30 years, and I wanted to come here to introduce a discussion on getting a Frisbee golf basket. I've got one. I picked one up at a swap meet. I was going to use it just for my own personal use, but I thought it'd be really nice to have it for the community to use. I've been here forever. Matter of fact, Holly Park was back when it was the cheese park. They had those big yellow pipes. And that was a great place to play then. It still is a nice area. But the point of it is that I've watched kids playing Frisbee, throwing Frisbees against trees, playing Frisbee golf. And I thought it'd be nice to have a little practice tee for somebody. And as I mentioned earlier, I did pick one up at a swap meet, so I actually have one. And I had somebody who was interested in putting it in as an Eagle Scout project. So I have everything kind of lined up except for optimal location and approval from you folks. So I just wanted to put it out there that it's available. I think it'd be a great asset to the community. We could put it someplace safe so we wouldn't have any issues like they had in Manhattan Beach, and everything would be great. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, my name's Don McClemens, and you can get in touch with me and we'll discuss it further. Thank you, Meredith.
All right, any other communications?
Dodgers. I wear this shirt until they lose, so it's day 11. Stand back. Taken me a year and a half to get by here since I was reelected to the council, and have a conflict with the
Excuse me, sir, if you could actually give us your name.
Okay. I'm not used to this position. I'm up there where Bob's sitting in my seat. Dr. Don Brand, Segundo City Council, second 4-year sentence. So we have Economic Development Commission this same day of the month, and that's still going on. I walked out on it tonight so I could come here and thank you for your service on the commission here. Much appreciated. Appreciate all the discussions you have and improvements you've made. Also want to recognize Mark for his decades of service to the trees in the city of El Segundo. Is going to be a big shoes to fill, be very much missed. Sorry to see you go because you made such a positive difference here. And come back and visit. But thanks again for what you're doing. We are having a discussion, as you know, at the council about the size of the commission here. I think that's coming back to us again soon. Heard anything about it lately. And then we've been talking about the aquatic center, of course, at Weisburn High School quite a bit lately. So I just wanted to come by here, though, and thank you each for your service and appreciate what you do for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That would be a great time, sir. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for inviting me over here. My name is Bill Whalen. I am the new police chief here at El Segundo. And somebody asked me today, how long have you been here? And it's been such a blur, I don't know that I can even tell you. But I do know the date was July 3rd. So I guess, what's that, a couple weeks? I'm starting my 3rd week here. Greatly honored to be here. It's my goal to get out and meet with all the stakeholders, just to simply introduce myself and say hello. And obviously, you all are very important to this community. And our good relationship, I think, is very important. I think public safety, parks, recs, we will do a lot together moving forward. We have a great collective goal of community safety and great facilities here. So know that our police department will wholeheartedly support that. Know that you have a great police department here serving you. I've been truly amazed with the high caliber of men and women that I've met thus far, and I've been incredibly amazed by the community that we are serving. It's simply amazing here. coming from where I came from, and to come up here and walk down Main Street and have people come out and say hello to you is something I wasn't used to, but I could tell you it's very nice. Just briefly about me, in case you don't know, I came here from the city of Irvine. I was there for 18 years. Before that, I was at the city of Garden Grove for about 10 years. My last was the operations commander. Done, except for being dog handler and motor, I've done probably about every other assignment, from detectives to SWAT, all kinds of fun things, and this is definitely the highlight of my career. So looking forward to many more times together, and thank you for this brief moment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right. Any other communications? Now, closing the communications. Go on to the consent calendar. I'd like to move on to approve the minutes from the meeting from June 24th, 2017.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Unfinished business. Consideration and possible action to prepare a report to the mayor for outlining progress, accomplishment, and future priorities for those areas and activities related to the Recreation and Parks Commission. As we look at the report, Vice Chair Pierce and myself, or Co-Chair Pierce, and I sat down with Meredith. We put together kind of a highlight. It's in the packet that you have in front of you. It's by the request of the mayor to basically talk about where big ideas take off and how our different committees, whether it be committees, commissions, or boards, the CCBs, Recreation Parks Commission has sat down, and we've kind of come up with the things that we've done in the past and some of the goals for the future. And this is to help our mayor and the council sit down and kind of allocate money and get a strategic plan together, so that if there is something that's coming from our end to the city, especially financially, they will be prepared for it. As we go on, I think you can see the outline that Meredith's prepared for us. At this time, I'd like to open up for different comments from the council or committee.
Would you like to begin from us giving a slight overview of where we went so the other commissioners kind of understand? And
Please go.
Okay. Meredith, please supplement as you feel appropriate, since it was the three of us in a conversation. So as we sat down, so there are some expected things in here. The aquatic center, the golf course, that they've been main topics for most of the 3 years that I've been serving on the board. And so, as we come up with the aquatic center, the opening is a key event, figuring out how to get staff in place, working through with the city council about their thoughts and ideas, assessing the programs. I think there's a lot of excitement in the community about the opportunity, and so do we have the programs that are there? Are they arranged? Are they ready to go? It'd be nice on day one to have it launched and be executing pretty smoothly. And then, of course, the joint use agreement is in there as well. So those are really the four main things that we thought that the aquatic center had in front of it. And we would achieve our goal of having a smooth opening with that type of focus. The golf course operations and programming model, I think our discussion led us to, we may not have everything all worked out from a programs perspective. And so I think Meredith was thinking that she and her staff would invest time in that and set the program goals. And we'd probably have some communications inside the board about what that looks like over the course of the summer and into the fall. And then, there's the RFP for course operations and how that will go, another big step. Looking just generically at programs review and assessment with Dan and Aricia, tend to have a lot of responsibilities there. El Segundo TV and Rec, as we said in many meetings, Dan, you're so self-sufficient in going forward that at times maybe we neglect what your needs might be. So we said let's prod in there and see if there's something that Dan could use in modernization or something to improve the programs, and just look at it from that perspective. Setting program goals. Again, we have a lot of programs that are going on. Have we taken a strategic look at it in a while? Maybe not so much so. So let's take another look at that and scrub that this year and take a look. We wanted to review a little more on participation data, right? We're collecting fees. We're looking at which which aspects are being supported and which aren't. So we've got numbers that we've been carrying, and maybe sitting down and strategically looking at that as well would be good. We still are coming up with ideas and thoughts, right? We have the proposal from the community today about a Frisbee golf hole. A lot of communities I've been in have had different levels of support. It's those type of ideas. What kind of needs are out there? We had the seniors who presented to us, I think, the last meeting that had some ideas for use. So reaching out that way to try to figure out if maybe there's some gaps in the community. And of course, that kind of I just overlap that with the intergenerational programming, really thinking about, are the programs for seniors we may want to think about a little bit more. Investment in parks. We have 23 parks in town. We focus on the ones that are like kind of right close to us. What's the strategy for all of them, right? We know Acacia's undergoing some construction now. Campus is going to have the returfing. The ladies brought forward the idea about the fencing. Those are all types of things. What's our strategy for parks over time? Plunge renovation sits in there. We're still working on the aquatics, but the plunge will probably need some attention once we're through that project a little bit further. And so just a strategy on how we go from, where we are today to where we need to be tomorrow. Community engagement and outreach. We've had a little bit increase in the community interest on what's happening with our urban forest. Mark and his team put a strategy together 2010, Mark. I think that's about the time frame. Maybe it was a little bit earlier. Yeah, I recall that, it's written down. There's a strategy for it. We've got to get the word out so folks understand. I mean, it is pretty traumatic when it's on your street and you're used to that tree and everything else. What the heck is going on? Our community outreach can help the entire community understand how the urban forest is being managed. You put together that educational class back in April. Question is, should we go a little bit further? Should we have something maybe on the El Segundo TV that folks, slip on by and they see a little training module and word gets out? Put it on YouTube, those type of things. And then technology utilization, the recreation management software. Very important investment from the community, important enough. We also have the technology committee taking a look at that. I know folks want that to be very successful. And I think I duplicated with the El Segundo TV capabilities enhancements, but all wraps in there, and you can see that I've synergized a few comments in there that not any one particular one is just in its own little stovepipe, but they reach out and maybe there's some synergies there. So from that perspective, I think that's what we're trying to communicate to the city council, that here's the basic priorities and where we think we're going to move in the next year, with some to-dos for us as the staff and then as the commission to help shape. As far as the year in review, my goodness, you go back through all the reports that we've done over the last, the commission reports. There's a ton of stuff that's going on with the rec and parks. The Youth Sports Council, the Aquatic Subcommittee, the Golf Subcommittee, those are very vibrant interactions with the community. The number of youth sports organizations, recreational programming, right? This is the height of the season of the summer activities. Last year we had a re-engagement with the high school cross-country team to bring cross-country back into the city and put up a course that the Rec and Parks was instrumental in. The centennial events, a special event specific to this year. Took a lot of resources to pull that off. We still have 6 more months to go. There's a lot of more activities that are there. And so that'll be the highlight in what we're going forward there. The turf replacement, nice simple little phrase, can say it in 5 seconds, but takes a lot of work behind the scenes to pull together the research, the reach out to potential bidders and vendors, putting together an RFP, putting it on the street, doing the review, all the different surveys that need to be done by different parts of the city. That was a big accomplishment there. And we're looking forward to the turf going down here shortly. Establish and maintain, recognized by the many sponsors and the community partners. The Rec and Parks is a their interaction with our businesses and our benefactors in the community is numerous. You see on the list, there's probably 20 here, and there's probably another 10 or so that could easily be added to the list. We've got great community support. We've appreciated it for a number of years, and we want to maintain the relationships going forward, and we're very grateful to that support in the community. And then we have I had a couple of special ceremonies. We have a couple of long-serving members of the Rec and Parks Committee who were recognized for their service. Debbie Bundy, who served more than 20 years, and Commissioner Moda, who rejoins us, who served 3 terms prior. So there's no doubt that their support and effort with the community was instrumental in everything from getting campus approved during the development phase, figuring out a strategy to go forward to service the entire community, because there are lots of groups that get use of the fields out there. The golf course and, the community feeling for how that's going to go, how we're going to shape that, as well as the aquatics subcommittee. Extremely important contributions, and both Bob and Debbie served during that time frame. And the Friends of the Recreation Parks Appreciation Wall was well-deserved by putting up plaques recognizing that service. So that's the items that we had captured. There's probably more. There may be other things that other folks think maybe we should highlight a little more, and so after having just given that, I'm going to open back up to everybody to ask questions. Or
I think one of the things that I found during this was it helped to provide us kind of goals and a strategic plan to move forward. And even as the chairperson, I never really looked at our goals. I just took business one day at a time and tried to, okay, well, this is kind of nice. And we had things that would fall before us, but I think this really helps focus us on the future so that we can move in a unified direction. So what I think I'm looking for here tonight is just as you read through this, is there anything we're missing? Is there anything that, should be highlighted before this goes before the council? I see somebody shaking their head, yes. Mr. Moda? You're okay?
I like what I see. You guys did a lot of work. I appreciate your time you put into this. I want to hear some other opinions. You ready?
I like everything I see. My questions really surround how much of these are we directly involved with, and how many of them are administrative and through Recreation and Parks staff. And it appears that a lot of the items here, our participation is in the subcommittees. Some items here do come before us, but part of I think what I would like to know from the council is, are they wanting more decisions to be brought before this commission, or do they want this commission just to be more involved in the process before it gets to them? So I'm not sure what the goal is, other than, this to me looks more like the priorities of the entire department. And then we're involved in all of it, but some pieces we're involved a lot, and some pieces we're involved a little bit. So I guess I think it's awesome, it's great, but I still don't know how it changes our role. Or if it does, and maybe it doesn't, which is okay, and maybe I just need that explained to me. That
makes sense. Absolutely. And a lot of the items come from staff, and it's what they want to do, and which is great. But you're exactly right. What of these items are we going to be involved with, and what items are coming directly from staff?
Right.
So,
I don't really have an opinion, or definitely not a strong opinion. I'm just want clarification so I know what it means to us. And maybe, I don't know if that's the next step in the process.
Let me tell you what was in my head as I was working with Meredith, was that a role as a commission I have always taken is voice of the community, and to help Meredith and her staff get the voice of the community in the way to go forward. We also serve the city council in representing their needs. But the day-to-day blocking and tackling, that's Meredith's. So there's an element of, yeah, there's going to be things that she needs to do just to bring the department forward. And so this needs to reflect her vision. And then we help shape it relative to the inputs and the role that we play. And so that's the approach I took to it.
I would just say, if it comes across this desk, wouldn't it matter that it's on there? I mean, the value of it or how big a hand we have in it shouldn't really matter. I mean, we're still with Meredith. We are a voice of the community, like you said, and we're helping Parks and Rec push their agenda out with the voice of the people.
I suppose I'm really trying to say that this feels like something new. It's something that's being asked by the council, and so I'm wondering if it changes our role, or if it doesn't. I'm happy with the role we serve. I think what you described, Rick, I totally agree with, and that's what we have been doing, and I like that. I agree with everything you said. I guess I didn't watch the council meeting when they talked about the item where we want all the commissions and everybody to do this. So I guess maybe I just need to know what the council was looking for, because is this just they haven't gotten feedback on, hey, what are all these commissions doing? We need information on what everybody's doing, or we're trying to revamp things.
So let me add another piece of information that didn't come out when I talked, which is Meredith said this was supporting the strategic planning of the city relative to it. And so you look at it and you say, well, how does this organization do strategic planning? It looked to me like this was an opportunity for the city council to come out and say, you know what, we need to ask our departments about what the priority should be. So it's more of a bottoms-up strategic planning. Whereas in previous years, I'm not sure that it was asked that way. So you're right, new process. Does it mean new things? I guess I didn't really concern myself with that because of the vision that I have of what our role is, and that could still play within that and help support. But if there is a new look, we've had the conversation tonight with Meredith here. I think some members of the audience might be interested in what we're talking about. If there's new guidance there and things, yeah, maybe that should be there. Maybe that's something we want to come through.
And I suppose maybe, like I said, this is more of a first step in articulating what's happening and what the priorities are, and putting them down on paper makes them more clear and obvious and focused for the department. So that's a big part. Even if nothing else happens,
That's a
I get it
great
that that's
step,
a
right?
huge thing.
Yep.
I just want to make sure that if I'm supporting this document, I know what I'm supporting.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what I found in this is that as we've gone through a number of the subcommittees, I've been kind of ad hoc into the golf. I've been involved in aquatics for 40 some odd years in El Segundo. And I've always seen that a number of different goals, a number of different things, but as we've gone through different meetings or in the case, recently with some of the aquatics, it's the day-to-day operations and trying to get stuff done has kind of had a game plan, but yet there's some other, I think we're going to bring it up a little bit later with Meredith, is all of a sudden the council is now asking for the outside, what's the term, the outside management.
Right, outsourcing.
Outsourcing the management of the aquatic center, which, might be viable, but 2 years ago, we actually addressed it. We addressed how management should be, and I'm not so sure that our intake in that subcommittee of aquatics was taken and kind of followed through from the community standpoint. And I think that's where we come in. When we sit up and we look at an aquatics committee, when we look at the golf course operations and we look at that, we are there to see that the community is represented. And I don't necessarily know that that's always coming through. Meredith always has the nuts and bolts in mind and how it's all going to kind of to work and play. But from the community, we need to come out and say, well, this was the vision 3-4 years ago as our council comes in and out. And, a lot of these commissions, we saw at the onset of aquatics, we saw one set of council come in and do one thing. Now there's a new set of council coming out, and they aren't necessarily privy to some of the decisions and the meetings that were done 3, 4, even 5 years ago in that. So I think a lot of this kind of outlines what we want to see in the community and sees to it that we're still a part of it throughout. And when we formalized and actually sat down and put a list together, we become part of the, I hate to say the system, but we will be included so that we are hopefully a little more streamlined. I think that's what I see when we started to do this, is that just formalizing what we've done and what we want to see kinds of puts it out there so that when they have a question about outsourcing management, they know that we're part of the system and they could come ask us before they go out and try to make a formal procedure of checking outsourcing, which had been done a couple years ago. And we looked at it and it didn't exist for this type of facility. So anyway, that's what I see from it. Does that make sense?
It does. The action that's asked to be taken on this is, what would be done with this? This is then delivered to council as we've blessed this document.
Basically, you could do it a couple different ways. I think what I've seen at the last couple of council meetings is actually a representative from the commission come to a council meeting and verbally report what they've been working on and what they see as the priorities moving forward for that specific commission. I haven't seen anybody, I don't think, turn in a written report, but we can certainly attach it to a staff report that's in the agenda just for documentation purposes, since we have one or will have one. And, if there isn't a volunteer to come and do the report verbally, then we can simply attach it in a staff report and they can receive and file the report and read a written report. So that's what I would like to see tonight is, if you're comfortable with this draft, we can finalize it and everybody can approve it, or we can add things or modify things, or if you want to see it expanded in any sort of a way, and then just direction on how you would like to present it to the council. And if it is verbally, then recommending somebody to do that. We're looking at the August 1st meeting. That would be, I think, the best option, August 15th if needed, but the next strategic planning session for the city council is August 8th.
Okay, let's start first with this, basically the outline that we have here. Are there any additions, subtractions that anyone on the council would like to see? So at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we use this outline for a written report to the council. And looking for a second.
I second.
All approve?
Aye.
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 5-0. I'd like to make another motion, and just to reinforce this, is that we perhaps choose somebody to represent it and actually make the verbal presentation to the council on that August 1st meeting. So does that sound, do you think that would be prudent so that they get not only a written, but they kind of get kind of the face of where it's coming from?
I do think it works that way, yes.
So I'd like to make a motion that we
Okay.
nominate somebody to present it in front of council.
Why are you looking at me?
Well, why don't you just put the name in, just that you nominate Rick to do it, and then instead of 5 more motions, let's just do it in one.
Okay, there we go. I second. I think that was, I think you're making a motion, I'll second it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you need a motion
Yeah, I
necessarily for
don't
that,
think we
but
do
if you want
either,
to discuss
Rick.
amongst yourself.
We're going with Rick will present.
Do we get discussion before we vote?
Would you like to discuss it?
I would. I definitely, I have to check my calendar is one thing. So I'd like to at least have a backup. I'm not going to.
How about if
shy
the
away.
motion be amended that either Rick or myself, since we were in the meeting presenting, putting it together, the one of the two of us will present it to council as our calendars permit, because I think I'm open. So I would be more than happy to do it if you're
Yeah,
not.
I just don't know what my schedule is off
So
the top.
the motion would be,
I don't believe we need a motion. Either one of you two can do it.
Yeah.
okay, 5-0.
Yeah.
Alex?
Yeah.
Perfect. That was a little difficult, but thank you very much for getting through that. All right, let's move on, please. Let's see, new business. Consideration and possible action in the election of a Recreation and Parks chairperson. Let's get through that. All right. As the 5 commissioners serve a staggered 4-year terms on the commission with terms expiring according to their appointment dates, we are looking to nominate a chairperson for the Recreation Parks Commission. At this time, I would like to open nominations. Anyone?
Well, I would like to nominate Commissioner Moda.
I will second.
Doesn't need a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 5?
Aye.
5-0.
Aye.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Chair Moto.
Have to accept.
I didn't hear him decline anything, so.
Go ahead and finish
Yeah.
out the meeting.
Perfect. All right. And now at this time, I'd like to do nominations for a vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Chairman Davis.
You don't want me to second, do you? There's no second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you very much. And we'll move on. Thank you. All right. Next matter of business. Looking at possible action to assign commissioners to various committees. This includes the Youth Sports Council, Aquatic Subcommittee, Golf Course Subcommittee, and further discuss the ad hoc committees. Historically, the Recreation Parks Commission has assigned one commissioner to represent the Commission on Youth Sports Council and a commissioner to represent the Commission on the Golf Course Subcommittee. As I think we're all aware, Debbie Bundy served on the Golf Course Commission for eons. I think on the last renovation of the golf course, she was in on it, and so that this is an open spot for sure. As we move on, Commissioner Pierce is currently serving on the Youth Sports Council. We'll be looking at that, and as we go down, myself currently acts as a representative in regards to the Aquatic Subcommittee. There is also 2 city council members assigned to the Aquatic Subcommittee. And there's been some discussion to whether the standing committee related to the new aquatic center will be desired to handle financial review and scheduling oversight. So we may want to look at if a second commissioner would be wanted for that aquatic committee. So at this time, why
So
don't we
before-
look at?
Let me ask you, so
Questions?
can I ask you is it appropriate to, first of all, find out how often and when these are, and then get interest from folks first? Not that we want to compete for them, but
Absolutely.
I'd love to know who's interested before I nominate.
Yeah, when we sit there and we look at, currently Commissioner Pierce is on the Youth Sports Council. They meet, I believe, twice a year in January and August. Additionally, if needed, have they had any more than 2 meetings?
No, traditionally they were able to get the business done in a meeting each one.
Usually January and August, usually.
Right.
January and August, correct?
Mhm.
During what time are they typically?
They're usually,
Evening, 5:30, 6 o'clock, 5:30 usually.
yeah, usually it's trying to round up all the folks that would be represented, primary seasons, and making sure you can get those representatives there. So then Sean tries to accommodate everybody.
Perfect. So, just for simplicity's sake, why don't we just stick with that and look at the Youth Sports Council? Do we have any nominations? I mean, I'm looking at Commissioner Pierce as currently serving and has done a great job, so I would nominate him for another round.
Are you interested in doing another round?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm interested in doing another round. Mhm.
Is there anyone else interested in doing another?
I'm also on that I'm also on the Youth Sports Council for Babe Ruth, so I am there. It's just another set of ears and eyes and a voice. So
Now, just
I have no
in-
problem with. I think Rick would be great.
Yeah, I'm step back a little bit from the community. AYSO is what my affiliation's been. I'm a little bit back from that, so I'm not conflicted, if you will. So,
Well, at least on that.
right. Well, there are times that open space is a critical resource, right? We've talked about it before. We definitely have community interest in using all the facilities we have, and we expect that, you know, if we found more green space, folks would love to have it. So, but at times it could become contentious, especially as, you know, if there's a project going on and folks need to move to accommodate something, that's usually.
As we're well aware, there are a lot of different groups trying to get on all the fields within this town, and
all the different options that we have open, you know.
Land is at a premium, absolutely. So at this point, we'll go with the Youth Sports Council and leave Commissioner Pierce as the chairperson for that, or the representative for that. Any discussion, opposition? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Let's move on to, well, we'll go to the Aquatic Subcommittee, as I currently serve on that committee. Meredith, can you give us a little background as to why they're looking for perhaps more people on that?
I'm sorry, did you jump to aquatics?
I did jump to
Okay.
aquatics, yes. Just because doing the currently serving, and then we'll fall back onto the open position of the golf course.
I don't think it's necessarily that they're looking for more. I think that it's just an opportunity to have more than one. And as you know, a subcommittee can have up to 2 with a commission that's 5 members. And I think the more representation, the better, in my opinion. I think that right now, the current aquatic subcommittee with the 2 council members, it's Mayor Fuentes and Councilmember Perstuck. And I meet with them periodically, since there are some developments, and what I would like to do is try to get a little bit more inclusive with yourself, and then if there is another representative from the commission on that committee, so that we can all be on the same page, and you know, the information can be distributed in a more efficient manner. The other thing is that there is going to be further conversation about possibly creating a standing committee related to the aquatic center. It's something that's being discussed not only at the council level, just in terms of idea generation, but also in conversations with the Wiseburn School District as we move through the joint use process. And we're really talking about priority use, much like we do field allocation for the other fields, that this pool we know is going to be in high demand, and we know there's going to be competing demands, different programs, various schools, you know, youth teams, competitive programs, but also the community programming. And it's really going to take a lot of effort and community representation to make sure that we are allocating that space properly. And so much like the Youth Sports Council, I think it's going to have a lot to do with allocating space, but also there's a financial component moving forward too. And that's still to be determined. So I don't know exactly what that looks like or what the makeup of that group might be. But I would like to have some members of this commission part of figuring that out. So that would be my recommendation.
Right. So before I ask if there's any interest, the actual meeting of the actual meetings are very ad hoc at best. So that, you know, it's not like some other meetings where they meet on the first Wednesday of every month or anything like that. It would be very discretionary as far as time goes, just so that you have some idea that it's not always consistent. Is there any interest in the Aquatics Committee?
Before I answer that question, who else is on it right now? Is it just the 2 city council members and Lee?
Yes.
That's the whole committee right now.
It's not as structured as it may appear to be on paper, but I think the goal here is to make it more structured and at least move towards that and develop that. So for me, the importance of having this representative or 2 representatives is so that I can freely share information and make sure that this commission is kept up to speed on information that is occurring, maybe not outside of that subcommittee as well. Is just to have a couple point people to make sure that this commission is staying informed.
I believe there should be 2. So
Yeah, I mean, it's going back to the earlier discussion, it's number 1 on our list. And there was an element of priority with that.
You know, and as long as you understand, this is a $12, almost $13 million project. 1.8 of it is from the city funds. $6 million is coming from the South Bay Sports Health and Recreation Foundation, with another $6 million plus the land coming from the Weisburn School District. There's a lot of moving parts in this, and to have more representation from the city or from this council is probably the right thing to do.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of activity that's going to go on, and the two commissioners will probably say, I'll grab this, you grab this, let's meet in the middle, and because there'll be that much flurry in the next 12 months, I'm sure.
Where else is there interest up here? Who else is interested in being in?
Other than me, I am interested.
Yeah, I know,
Okay.
we know you,
Just want to make sure
we
that
know
doesn't
you
go
are.
unsaid.
Before going there, one of the things I was thinking, this is part of to me, there's a strategy, and this goes to maybe Commissioner Lube's aspect. This is another way that we could shape how we influence things and get the voice of the community out. And so I know there were additional ad hoc subcommittees that we talked about for priorities and such. My thought is that maybe people should think about maybe being a lead for one, backup for another. I don't know if that's the right structure, but, not to get overcommitted, give everybody a chance to participate in the community. So that was just...
So I have interest, for sure. I just don't want to, how should I say this? There's a couple things. The pool is not a passion of mine, so I would be coming at it probably from a very business-like perspective, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but I just want to be open and honest about that piece. If that suits the needs of you guys, and the timing. If it's ad hoc, we all know that I have I work very far away, and between your schedule, I don't know how. I'm afraid that I would miss meetings.
Well, yeah, I would say that a lot of the times we're also working with our consultant who's in Michigan. So, there are opportunities to definitely participate by phone.
Probably a good idea to have
Conference
two.
calls.
It doesn't look like, or do you have interest?
I think someone else would do a better job.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
I'd love for him to do it.
Okay, so I believe we have a nomination for Commissioner Lubes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That's a 4-0.
I get the
Here.
vote? I get the
Yeah,
vote?
there you go. Commissioner Lube, congratulations. All right, now we'll go to the open seat, which would be the Golf Course Subcommittee. This meets every other month and is responsible for guiding policies at the lakes, reviewing the financial performance, and making recommendations to the department and the city council regarding the golf course operations. One of the current focuses for this committee is the integration of the golf course with the proposed Topgolf development. The staff liaison for this committee is the Director of Parks and Recreation, obviously Meredith Pettit. This is a subcommittee that has one person, and the reason for the one person is because it is a voting position. If there's going to be a fee change or anything that is structurally going to change within that, it comes down to a vote. They like to keep it odd number. And with the commissioners, Meredith, I believe, and then council people, it keeps it at an odd. So we have one person in this committee.
How many are on the committee? 5?
So there's 5 members, 2 are council members, 1 rec park commissioner, and then 2 community representatives. Currently, one's from the men's golf club and 1 from the women's golf club. These meetings, I didn't put it in here, but they're every other month on Wednesdays at 11:30. I think they're on the even months. So there's one the first Wednesday of every even month at 11:30. It's a lunchtime meeting.
So this has been many, many years, right? This subcommittee's been going.
This has been going many, many years, and it's been served by, I believe, 1 commissioner.
And there's still, I feel like right now is when a lot of the really important decisions are going to be made. There's still a lot of really important decisions to be made. So I know that Commissioner Farfan has an interest in this, on this committee. I can't go to the 11:30 meetings anyway. I'm not interested, but I feel like now is the time where, no matter who is our representative, let's say it's Commissioner Farfan, where I feel like we need to be a little more involved than we have been in the past. And maybe that's feeding it through our representative, but this is an area I think where the community expects the commission to be involved, and it really hasn't been.
Well, I mean, probably correct. Anyway, with that being said, I've gone to a number of these meetings, and in the past meeting, I thought it was interesting that I thought that the Top Golf was pretty much going and almost done. There's a lot of things that are still undone with this. There is going to be a lot going on in this in the future. At some point, I'd like to see one, if not two people from this commission on there, because right now the men's golf club and the women's golf club would literally have more say than the El Segundo community as a whole. So at some point, I'd really like to see, similar to the aquatics committee, where the voice of the community, not just a couple of golf clubs, are 2/5 of the vote. So I don't think I'm ready to do anything right now, but understand that there's a lot of important things that are going to happen within this. It's going to be very important to the city on what happens with that because of our agreement with Chevron to operate a golf course, how it's operated. Understand that right now there's some controversy on, for profit as opposed to just public. So there's a lot of things involved in this. I have a sincere interest in it, obviously. Mr. Farfan, I know you do. I want to see you involved. I know I'm already involved in one committee, but I think it's real important that we do go out there and.
Could I try to offer something that may expand our horizons? So the structure says one person for one vote, right? It's an open community meeting, right? So I think we're limited by the Brown Act of having more than two commissioners in the same place. So one commissioner votes, we can have another commissioner who shows up. And so there's one vote. Whether or not it's consulted or not, I think, the behavior of the commission in the past is when we talk to each other, just sense everything out before we vote, make decisions. I don't know why that wouldn't happen. My thought would be we can nominate two folks, one vote for our group, but, kind of expecting that we have a lead who votes and maybe a follower who gets out there. Because there's a lot of decisions that are going to be made. There may be a little controversy with a couple of them, and it wouldn't hurt to have two folks present, regardless of voting rights.
So
we could put one in and then have a backup if for some reason you can't go, or do it that way, and then obviously both can go anyway. Actually, you can all go. Everybody can go. It's a public meeting, so
yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going to nominate Commissioner Farfan.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. And
As a second?
sorry.
So does that mean that if Commissioner Farfad can't attend, that we could still have a vote at that meeting if we nominate a second, or by not nominating a second, then we lose that vote if he happened to be sick that day?
No, we wouldn't necessarily. What we've done in the past with absences is generally I'll reach out to the chairperson of Recreation and Parks and see if they're available to stand in, and then the vice chair and so on and so forth. So we would
I've
always
been
have
to
representation.
a few of them. Well, in the past, obviously.
If you'd rather identify that next in line, we can do it that way too.
Not necessary, I guess.
Well, it may not be necessary, but do we have the interest of somebody who says, I will intend to go out and do that, and then we just endorse it now and say, there's a second, the person's going to show up, and if they're not there.
I'm fine with that too.
Yeah.
So
They can tell us later that, that's not the way it works, but okay, we'll ask for forgiveness at that point in time.
On deck.
you have the nomination?
I'm a nomination for assistant.
Assistant to the assistant? Okay, great. Yeah.
Commissioner Davis as the alternate on the
All in
golf
favor?
subcommittee. Aye.
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 5-0.
Excuse
4-0,
me,
I guess,
commissioners.
All right, and I think
Excuse
that
me.
Hold on.
concludes.
This is,
Who seconded the nomination for Commissioner Farfan?
I don't believe there's a second needed,
Oh, there's not?
believe it or not. I think a nomination and then a vote is according to,
I second.
I think it's
Nomination.
different.
it does need, okay, so.
I'll second it too.
My bad.
I had my mic off, I guess.
So, did you get a second then? Somebody? All right.
I'll second, yeah.
All right.
Before we move on, ad hoc committees.
Ad hoc committees.
Yeah, one of the things we had discussed in priorities was, and we don't necessarily need to vote on this tonight or anything, we want to mull it over, was the Jocelyn Center, right? There's a community program ongoing there. And our seniors came in and visited us a couple of meetings ago and explained. And the thought was, do we need to reach out to that community and maybe pull them for what their needs and desires are? Again, self-sufficient in a lot of different ways, but it's probably important for us to reach out at times as opposed to, expecting folks to come here. So that was a thought that I floated at the meeting and just wanted to get out here on the record to think about.
So Joslin Center is one idea. Are there others?
There might be. I would have thought that maybe, my assumption was raise that, and maybe other commissioners had things that they thought of it. Hey, maybe this is a place that we don't look enough. The parks is a great idea, that role of that, which is, I don't know that I recognize there would be a need for fencing. The ladies came in and did that. How do you reach out to the community and do a little more pull as opposed to?
I think what we were talking about the ad hocs is just what he said. We've established the Jocelyn Center has a place where our seniors meet, and that's kind of that general area. Until recently, I wasn't aware of the Moms group. They are a group of 120 some odd strong, I believe, which at some point, I never knew that till literally tonight that they were so strong. That would be a great spot to reach out and see what their needs and thoughts are. A lot of us started here on this board with our younger kids, got real involved in whatever facet it was, and then we slowly moved up. At this point, I think one of the thoughts out there is that, we've been around for so long and, it's a homogenous crowd, but to reach out to groups like the Moms group and stuff like that would give us, that insight back to, some of the thoughts that we had back then that maybe didn't get addressed when we were there, or maybe that are new problems or new things that they're looking at that we should be aware of. So ad hoc committees like that would be great, where we could go in, literally at the beginning of a meeting for whether it be the Moms group, Jocelyn's group, or anything like that, where we could have an ad hoc committee that kind of goes out and kind of gets a feel for a certain segment of the community and what their needs are within our recreation and parks.
So my purpose is to float the idea on this agenda item to say other places in the community we might want to reach out with. The strategic plan kind of poked in a couple of those corners. Like I said, I don't know that it necessarily needs anything for this evening, but it's a good, I'm using the forum to spark some ideas and maybe determine our future of how we're going to engage, Commissioner Lubes, as opposed to, having folks come in and just tell us. Maybe we should expand our horizons and see where they want us to go.
My thoughts are, I'm open to the idea, but I'm also hesitant to form committees without a specific need that's been, you can get committee to death, you can get meeting to death, and then so it's a fine line between is it helpful or just more meetings. So
I'm floating the idea.
Yeah, I like the floating of the idea. Let it simmer a little bit, and it'll simmer with Meredith as well, and she'll probably have. I mean, there's probably Jaws and maybe something else, but yeah, I'm open to it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Nope. Okay, perfect. On to the next matter of business. Okay, consideration and possible action regarding the request for fencing around the playground areas at Holly, Kansas Park and Hilltop Parks. A little background on it, the staff has received a request from the El Segundo Moms Club, as we've heard earlier today, to install fencing along the south and east sides of the playground at Holly, Kansas Park. Staff met with the president of the club to discuss the options of fencing. The Moms Club feels that the fence will provide additional security for children dashing in the surrounding streets and intersections. Financially, this does have a cost. We are looking at both locations. The lowest price one would be the Holly, Kansas, or actually the lowest price for Holly, Kansas was $9,061, and the lowest price received for the Hilltop was $7,003. And the funding would come from the repair division, and I'd like to open up for discussion. The first one that I had, just because I'm already talking, we talked about the fence. What would be the height? And I understand that you were going with a green covered fence.
So we haven't made any decisions, and we just wanted to kind of get a ballpark idea on what this might cost. We've heard a lot of feedback in the past about most people go to Rec Park Tot Lot and they drive there. A, because there's restrooms, and B, because there's a fence. And especially for the little ones, you know, I think that play structure is geared towards, it's called age 2 to 5 play equipment. And that particular age group, if you've ever seen our Easter egg hunt, we put the two-year-olds in there, and fence is a good idea. But with that being said, we did want to sort of reach out and see what it might cost. I think in your packet we include some aerial images, and so I just wanted to clarify too that we didn't cost out an entire enclosure. It was more of a barrier on those sides of the playground area adjacent to the streets. So, you know, I want to make sure that we talk about that a little bit as well in terms of a full enclosure versus more of just barrier fencing. Mark can probably speak to the specifics of the quote and the type of fencing that we quoted. It's not the cheapest, but it's obviously also not the most expensive. And if we're worried about the look of it, we can certainly do more research on the type of fencing that we use. So I don't know if, Mark, you wanted to add on the dimensions or the height.
Yeah, the height of the fence would be approximately 3 feet high. It would be vinyl coated plastic, vinyl coated fencing material. I think we selected either green or black. I'm not sure. You could go with different colors. And at Holly, Kansas Park, there would also be, the cost went up because there's going to be gates. Gates because there's a generator in the back for the pump station that's located nearby. So vehicles need to get into there to service the generator. So there'd be gates on either end. That'd be on the south end as well as the east side of the park. There'll also be 2 pedestrian gates on the walkways that come in from both Kansas and Holly Street.
Are the pedestrian gates open?
They are, no, they close with a latch.
And are they required to have panic bars due to emergencies, or can they be the latch? Do they have to be panic? They can be the latch?
I believe so. I haven't discussed it yet with our building and planning department because we're still in preliminary talks with it.
That's an important point for me because a panic bar is a lot easier for a child to get through and out into the street anyway. So if it were a panic bar, it might take away from the...
Yeah, these quotes were not with a panic bar, they were with latches.
But it's just a partial fence, right?
Yeah, it's a
not
3
full
foot, so
fence.
it's not like
So they'd still, if
you
somebody
could carry
needed
your
to
kid
roll
over
out-
the 3 foot fence and get out.
Okay.
And that was one of my considerations is, you know, with a 6 or 8 foot fence, I'm more concerned about getting out of a park in a bad situation as opposed to that.
Right, and at Holly, Kansas Park, the fence goes basically to the hedges on either end. So it's still, basically, the kids can circle around, get out that way, but usually they won't.
So both are just barriers as opposed to
Correct.
encapsulating. And that's basically that function that would keep people and children from going into the street.
It would prevent them, yes.
Yeah, in a certain limited role. Like I think of
Correct.
older kids with kickballs, the ball would hit the fence or the ball would go over the fence, but there'd be that physical barrier to potentially slow them down and not just run out.
Right, and that's what we put in the report, the kids dashing out, at least if they had to go over the top of the fence, they can be
Right.
Supervised by the parents.
And the other reason why we did that is there's picnic tables off on that west side. And so we didn't want to completely separate the picnic area from the playground area, you know, or where the, you know, parents might sit and watch the children from the benches and things like that, have picnics over there in the grass area. We don't want to create, you know, separate spaces that would be kind of prohibitive to the way that they use the space.
So right now you're in the concept exploration role of this, right? Just
That's correct.
yeah, because you have to put together plans and all sorts of other stuff and bring it back as a more formal. This is what we think we're going to go to, or is it just? I don't know that I've been in a project of this nature before with the commission.
I think we're just looking for direction conceptually, if it's something to move towards fencing in playground areas, because I know that there's differences of opinions. One for, there's obviously the safety and security of the children in terms of containment. But also we know that a lot of people do walk their dogs in that area and want to use the park for other reasons as well. So I think the third thing is the aesthetics. A lot of people don't like fencing. Fencing isn't really that attractive. So that's another conversation that I wanted to sort of bring up too is, we did quote out with the green vinyl coated chain link. But like I said, there could be something out there that may be more expensive. But if the commission is concerned about aesthetics of the park and sort of balancing that, that's sort of the feedback that we wanted to hear from the commission.
So as you guys have researched this, are there any alternatives to fencing?
There are. There's iron type fencing. There's plasticky type material that might look more like a picket fence. But what we haven't done is actually gotten prices on any of those.
I'd like to see something come back to us, different types of fencing, or barriers, or different ideas that we can look at as far as chain link. That's a great place to start, but what else is out there?
Yeah, because all barriers don't necessarily need to be a fence, but at the same point, there's a certain amount of security that comes with that, so you're trying to find the balance, right? Hedges probably don't fit with where we're at with conservation right now.
I believe something
thoughts.
needs to be done.
Yeah.
I just want to know what our choices are.
Hold on. May I?
Absolutely.
How many accidents or injuries have occurred in those streets at those two parks in the last 10 years? Do we have any reports on any actual injuries that have occurred?
I haven't had
Because
reports.
I actually disagree with Commissioner Moda in his statement. I don't think something needs to be done, I think something needs to be done because I actually don't believe anything needs to be done. I'm one of those who I am concerned about the aesthetics. I do not believe that we should be putting fences around our parks. We have how many parks? 23. I think this is a slippery slope. I think that once we put a fence or two up at a couple parks, there may be demand and expectations at various other parks throughout the city, and we will end up with 18 of those 23 pocket parks having fences around. I have spent hundreds of hours at these two parks in my time, and with my own children, and I do not believe that putting up a fence, I think a 3-foot fence is a false sense of security, particularly if you can get around it, or it only goes to a certain point. So I think it's a false sense of security, and would be more likely to allow a parent to think that it's safe and not pay attention, and could actually cause more injuries, in my opinion. I am extremely concerned about the immediate neighbors and their reaction to fences going up across the street from their house. And if that hasn't been looked into, I think it needs to be. And overall, I'm looking for direction as far as from my perspective. I think this is, I do not think we should be putting fences up of any size at these parks.
Exactly.
No, there's an end.
There's actually comments at the end.
Yeah.
There's comments at the end.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
just kind of a counter, because I'm kind of leaning the way of we should explore and understand some options relative to it. One thing I'm not recommending this, but one thing that jumps off to me is, well, if these tables were on the other side of the park,
yeah, absolutely.
that would have created a natural barrier, probably not inside us so much as saying we need something additional. So I think I'm looking if we can do the safety in a reasonable way without going off the slippery slope, which is an excellent put. we got to, maybe there's a balance in there. Maybe there's not, but I think we should take a look. And I don't think you were saying not to take a look, or were you?
I'm open-minded to take a look, but at this point, we're talking about direction, and I'm just expressing my opinion that I would say, if it were up to me by myself, I would say I do not want you to spend your time researching this, because I don't believe the community overall wants it. I don't believe that. I did speak to a handful of neighbors at both areas, not enough for it to be statistically significant, because people I knew, I just said, how do you feel about it? And I got a generally negative reaction. So I think, and I know I'm not very popular with 3 people in the audience right now, but but I have to tell what I feel. And I believe that my own experience as a parent and the experiences of the other people at these parks, I believe that parents need to be more responsible and not rely on a fence for safety.
I also believe that there is an aesthetic piece to this. This community is nice the way it looks, but I'm also deeply invested in child security. And so one of the reasons I asked for alternatives is because I was thinking maybe, and this, I'm just throwing some out, bumps on the road to slow cars down, more signs. You know, we have to start somewhere. And I don't necessarily agree with, okay, let's look at the history and the accidents and the injuries, because it doesn't matter what's happened in the past. We have to prevent it from happening in the future. And even one accident or injury is too much for our children.
But if there hasn't been one.
Right. That's not to say that there won't be one. And those are big groups that the moms were talking about. And a kid can leak out. It can happen no matter how much control or visibility we have on them. It happens. But again, I do see that aesthetic piece. I don't like the fence around the park. I like the freedom to roam. But that's why I definitely brought up alternatives, because I'm sure there's something else we can do before fencing.
Broad set of opinions, huh? You know, I would just worry about the slippery slope of trying to prevent every accident from every child ever occurring for eternity. You can't prevent absolutely everything, because even with good structures and everything else, there's still accidents that happen. I was looking to explore the space and be mindful of the cautionary aspect that Commissioner Lube said. You know, is a slippery slope. How do the aesthetics look? There are other parks that come to my mind a little bit more clearly, because I'm more familiar with them. And how would fencing look all through all of that? It's so. But I do think that maybe the staff taking a look would be worthwhile, and how they balance their resources in doing that look.
And this current group picked these 2 parks, right? Well, why these 2? What are these the most dangerous, or are there 2 other more dangerous? Is there going to be a different group 5 years from now that says, we want these taken down because we don't use these, now we want fences over here? So there's all of these things.
Your question on statistics was, I think, fairly pointed, which is, you know, what has been the history relative to that, right? A lot of things go up, unfortunately, after something like that occurs, right? And I don't think we want to be in that situation. I think you completely support that aspect. But where's the need really live? Where's it lie? And this is the first exposure, first discussion relative to all this. So to come down firmly one way or the other, I think it's too premature. But I think to look into a little bit more of the data would be helpful for everybody.
You know, one of the questions that I'd have is, a lot of times we don't hear about, you know, little accidents, but if we could maybe reach out to the fire department, see if they have any EMS runs at those 2 locations over the last 10 years involving 10 years and under, because every EMS call generates a report that'll give a...
Except be careful, because it's going to be broken arms falling off the swings, and it's going to be, there's going to be a ton of calls at the parks.
Absolutely. And we can hopefully weed through to see if there's anything on the street related to kids in traffic. Because that's going to then be a vehicle collision. It's going to be vehicle. And that is a call type that they can sort, or should be able to sort by NFIRS. Little history. I'm a captain for LA County Fire. I know some of the program, and I believe the fire chief would be able to do a reasonably quick sort with his information management team. And if there are some, then we might have something very legit. As I look at Hilltop, I see the tables on the far side where the parent would sit. I see a park where the kids would play, and I see a street. It is hard for a quick parent to outrun a kid. You give them a 25-yard head start, it's almost impossible. And it goes to a lot of other things. So maybe we should just get a little more information, if possible, and go from there. Any other discussion or comments?
Just maybe to sort through our whole conversation and help Meredith with what we asked her to do.
Meredith, did you get enough, or did we
Overwhelm
mess
it?
you up? To help us out here.
No, I think for me the point well taken is definitely I think a piece missing, and again this is just the initial stage, just to sort of get that initial feedback on the concept, because I also have heard differing opinions about whether or not to start fencing or to not, and what that might mean later on. But surveying the neighbors I think is really important if we do decide that there's an option that might be viable out there. Definitely, I can talk to the other departments, fire department. I think the point about signs and just road safety is something just to bring up anyway, and let people know that there is a concern.
That big, huge bump thing, rather than the little guys, that big, huge bump is good too.
Well, that
right?
was the other part.
You know what I'm talking about, where you.
Yeah, well, there was the discussion we had at the beginning was there's no signage that says there's a park up ahead or there's children playing. Those type of things, as I was pointing back, yeah, you're right. There's nothing up there that I can recall.
Well,
So
I think
those are,
I think there's no sign coming from Grand, right?
yeah, so it's
Park
just a matter of is that
More
the
signage.
appropriate, right? Is that what's the appropriate way to go? And does signage fall under our? Is that with roads? You know, what's good?
Mark, do you have any input on who would be?
Yeah, there is a traffic committee that would be submitted to for additional signage.
But there's no reason to not put that in the hopper and say, what would the total solution be? And if we say it's probably signage, let's offer to some, the right path to get it done.
And I think as
No,
far
I'm sorry,
as,
I interrupted you.
Yeah, sure. If you recall, might have been a year and a half ago now when we put out some surveys for park needs assessment. Our most frequented parks are Rec Park, Sycamore Park, and Holly, Kansas. And Sycamore, I think, is really popular because it has a pretty updated playground, but it has that natural kind of catch basin barrier.
Right. Yep.
And I think that's why, we hear from parents that even just that sort of hillside is a nice natural barrier.
Just gives them a little more time to catch them.
It's a visual, and they're not going to be inclined to run up it.
Right. So there are definitely, the different parks, attract different users, and this one is about anywhere between 16 and 20 feet from the playground to the street, and it's not far. It's definitely close to the street and a concern. We certainly don't want to see children's running out into the street, but I think it is balancing that. Is it a safety issue, or is it more a supervision issue, and maybe somewhere in the middle? But we'll definitely reach out and talk to other communities and see what they're doing also.
So maybe we should get an update next meeting?
Sure.
A little.
Perfect.
I'll make
All
Mark
right.
do it tomorrow.
Did that happen to be Mark's last day?
Our going away present for Mark.
Yeah, congratulations, welcome. Anyway, okay, well, thank you very much. On to the next would be staff reports. Aricia.
Yes, good evening. I just didn't know if you had a chance to stop by Recreation Park this week. It was a very active week for us, lots of laughter. We may have had seven different camps running this week. It was wonderful to hear. It was a beautiful week this week. So if you have a chance to stop there on your lunch hour and just listen to the laughter and the yelling, it's great. We have a lot going on. But I did want to draw your attention to our golf tournament this weekend. I brought some beautiful cards to share for everyone. That around. We always give you information in the black and white, but I think you guys are definitely worthy of something a little more aesthetically pleasing. And on the flip side of that, you can see the farmers market schedule. We're trying to pay attention a little more to our marketing pieces that we put out, so it attracts the eye for the customers out there. So we're spending some time on that as well. Other than that, you have our report, our numbers in your report here. And we're also trying to include in that report more information about our sports. I realized that we were missing some sports information, so we're starting to get the sports groups to make sure they report out to us so you have that information as well. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Ursia?
Okay.
Nope.
And I also wanted to, this is my commercial this evening, did you know? I also wanted to share the Centennial Carnival, unless you haven't received that. I know, Meredith, I'm making you work this evening, I apologize. And that's it.
And as I see, it's sponsored by a lot of our good people at Chevron and everywhere else. It's so many of these events, it's just amazing how much support we get from the community. All right, and with that, perfect. Let's move on to Mark Trujillo, Park Superintendent.
Good evening, Commissioners. You have my written report for you. And one thing that's not on the report is we've selected a crafts worker, and he's in the hiring process right now, so we hope to have him here within the next few weeks. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Trujillo on his final day here with us?
I thought about doing 23 questions on the whole report, and then but I couldn't think of anything good else to do, so I guess I'll have to talk kindly about you at the end.
I have this tree in front of my house, Mark.
Yeah. All right. As the harassing continues, we'll move on. On to Dan O'Toole, El Segundo TV.
Good evening, Commissioners. You have my report in front of you. I want to let everybody know that on El Segundo TV, one word, on YouTube, our channel, you'll find all our programming going back to 2009. And also, we have our latest news show on there. And there'll be a special excerpt on several people that might be in this room. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Dan, how many viewers we got?
Viewers, we have over 1.25 million views. But the big thing for us is we have now about 1,300 subscribers. So that means every time we throw up a program, people are alerted that they're up and stuff like that. So it's really growing exponentially. And I noticed we were talking about public outreach and reaching the community, and that's what we're trying to penetrate, is give people different platforms to hear the message of, they can come to these commission meetings. They have open government with city council, and of course all the recreation programs and everything we cover.
Any comments? As we talk about our ad hoc committees, I think it's real important, and when Meredith and Rick and I sat down and talked about it, is that with El Segundo TV, I think we can get out to a lot of these specific groups and let them know that we are here, on Wednesday nights to hear from them, as well as us going out and maybe possibly hearing from them. So, it's kind of a give and take, and I certainly sympathize with the committee to death, because, there are a number of committees that we do, spend our time at, which is great. But on the flip side, it's great to see, the Moms Club come out and tell us what's important to them, so that we know, because we don't always see you guys and see different groups. So I think that's great that you're reaching out with 1,200. That's almost, about 8% of our population. So that's great. Moving in the right direction. All right. And on to the Department Director's report, Meredith Pettit.
Thank you very much. So as you know, the major projects that I'm most involved in on a day-to-day basis are the Aquatic Center, the golf course, and the Top Golf project. And also one I wanted to update you on with this month's report is our recreation management software. We do have 2 viable proposals for new recreation management software. that have come into the city, and we've reviewed them. They're quite lengthy, and invited both of them to give presentations next week, and wanted to just make sure the community knows that they are open public meetings as well as the commission. So if you are available, the first one is, and these are special meetings of our technology committee. They're really helping us sort of sort through a lot of the information that we receive. So the first one is Monday at 4 p.m. and the vendor is called Civic Plus. That meeting is being held at W Promote, which is a office space on Grand Avenue. The agendas will be posted tomorrow, I believe, with all the address and any more details. The second one is with the vendor called Perfect Mind, and that is on Wednesday at 3 p.m. And I know it's challenging for some folks who do have day jobs to get to those, but we will definitely report back the resolution that hopefully will come to you in terms of selecting one to move forward with by the end of those presentations. So it's very exciting for us. It's going to offer a lot of new features for not only us on the admin side, but primarily the customer, as far as renting facilities online, booking tennis courts, picnic areas, things like that, signing emergency waivers digitally, getting notifications by text message. So a lot of new updates that we haven't been able to do with our current software. So it's very exciting. As far as the aquatics complex is going, Commissioner Davis referred to this. There was a conversation, which you knew we were presenting a staffing model to the City Council on the July 5th meeting. And what the City Council has asked us to do was sort of revisit the study that was done in 2015 and update any projections that we have in terms of the operating budget, but also the programs and the revenue associated with those, because they wanted that information to be updated before they made any staffing decisions. They also wanted us to look into possibly basically alternative operating models, and that might be outsourcing either the entire facility management on a long-term basis, but even just using a consulting firm to help us in the pre-opening stages of making sure that the relationships are in place, that contracts are in place, programs are set up, training, hiring lifeguards, and things of that nature to help the city and our department transition into operating the facility. And that might be in lieu of hiring a city employee immediately. That is a timely process. It'll probably take 4 months if we're lucky. And I think we're approaching sort of a timing period where a decision needs to be made, and we need to have somebody on board to really start ramping up all of that work to be done before the opening of the pool. So I think it's very timely, and I think it's very important that the two members on this aquatic subcommittee become involved in all of these conversations moving forward. Questions on the aquatic center before I move on?
Is there a date set for the next subcommittee meeting that I should know about? Not yet, okay.
And the Lakes and Top Golf Project, again, we're definitely closing in on City Council discussion. In fact, it will be on the agenda at City Council for August 15th. This project, as you know, has been about 4 or 5 years in the making, and the Planning Commission certified or recommended to the City Council to certify the EIR and certain planning related elements according to the project. And so that has moved past the Planning Commission on a 5-0 vote and will be in front of the City Council on August 15th. A lot of things will be discussed. There is another golf course subcommittee meeting prior to August 15th, as well as a golf course design task force meeting to tie up some loose ends on that programming piece of things. So both of those meetings will be about the first week of August, and August 15th, 7 p.m. will be a very important discussion. A couple updates. The Campus El Segundo turf replacement. We are a little bit behind schedule. We just this week finalized the permanent overlays, and that was a bit more of a process than we sort of anticipated with lacrosse lines, soccer lines, making sure our dimensions are correct and all of those. AYSO actually just changed the dimensions for the U10 soccer field, so we wanted to make sure that we adjusted that appropriately. And then we'll have 7 versus 7 soccer lines also. One of the fields we're able to widen by 5 yards, so one will be 70 yards wide versus 65 yards, and so that will help in those upper age groups of soccer. So they'll be a little bit different, the fields, but we really reached out to all the different user groups and made sure that everybody was really comfortable with the plan moving forward. So don't know the exact date yet, but we're probably a week or two behind schedule on closing the field.
You said on closing the field?
Right.
Okay, and now, of course, I'm going to ask the question, what about opening the field? When you say, does it putting us into their season?
I haven't seen the schedule. I think that the Public Works engineer is working on getting a schedule from Field Turf, and obviously we're going to do what we can to expedite anything that we can.
Obviously.
I can keep you abreast of that.
Okay,
Obviously,
that'd be
we'll
great.
be working with AOASO very closely.
If you could do that, that would be great. Thank you.
So did the contract contain anything about the timeline for an install?
We were anticipating about 4 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not contractual. That's what you didn't say, in the contract, it didn't say when you start and break ground, you got 4 weeks to complete. You didn't
I'm not
go
sure.
that far.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah, it would constrain the city's hands to a certain degree, may overcommit, so.
I'll check in with that.
Thank you.
And then lastly, very exciting, I think for us, something we've been waiting for is a picnic shelter up at Rec Park above the tennis court. As you enter to basically Rec Park, that bubbly picnic shelter, we finally have plans and specs adopted by City Council, funding identified, and so hopefully in the next couple of months we'll see some a picnic shelter replacement over in that area. Oh, I forgot another thing. Mark's last day is tomorrow. But just we had a little bit of a lunch party today for Mark, and we have cupcakes scheduled tomorrow for Mark, and like I said today, tacos and cupcakes really don't do it justice of sending somebody off after working for the city of El Segundo for 32 years, and not just putting in the time, but putting in the dedication that Mark's put in, and just really being a stand-up, professional, passionate, calm, patient person to work with, and truly, definitely will miss Mark, and I want to just thank you for your service to the city, but also for teaching me a lot of what I know, and just being such a good support system for me and our department as a whole. So I'm sure the commission will have some comments to add to that, but I want to invite the commission to the reception tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock. Oh, we also have a video.
All right, and I believe a presentation.
Real quick, indulge us.
This was a actual segment on our news that is now airing on El Segundo TV.
Mark Trujillo, a 32-year El Segundo employee, will be retiring. Mark Trujillo, the park's maintenance superintendent, has created a truly remarkable career educating and servicing the valuable and vast collection of green resources throughout the city. Trujillo was always accessible for residents and other departments, giving that personal experience unique to El Segundo. As a certified arborist, he balanced the care of green space with the expansion of many new facilities under his watch. Trujillo thrived on problem solving, helping, and educating people on trees. His goal as park superintendent was to leave the city in a better place than when he started. From the city of El Segundo, we would like to thank Mark for all his hard work and dedication. Mark, you will be missed.
Happy trails to you.
Thank you, Mark. Don't be a stranger.
Actually, thank you, Mark. All right, and Meredith, is that it on your report? Fantastic. All right, as we move on, commissioners' comments. Commissioner Moda.
Just a couple of things. Just want to make sure that everyone gets out to the youth drama production Bye Bye Birdie at the high school performing arts center. We saw a great example tonight and a lot of talent. Please get out there. And Mark, thank you for everything. I was here last month, and my family, City of El Segundo, will miss you. Thank you very, very much. And happy retirement.
Commissioner Farfan.
Thank you, Mark, for pouring your heart into this city. Congrats, and enjoy your retirement. Hopefully a lot of golf. We got to get you out there. Thank you to Ella, who always performs just amazingly. She's awesome. Having her here is good. And thanks to the moms for bringing up child security. That's all I have.
Commissioner Lubes.
Thank you both for spending the time putting together those documents. It's extra time that none of us did. I appreciate it, and I hope that my comments in no way. Okay, good. I wasn't trying to say. All right, good. I saw your expressions. I'm good. So I met Mark probably around 91 or 92 at the checkout. So I've known him a great number of years, and I think what makes Mark what makes people say nice things about him, in my opinion, is the impact that he had on the culture. I think that there's two things that good employees, or that any employee, that you want any employee to do, and they are work hard and be nice. And that guy did them both. That's all I got.
Vice Chair Pierce.
Mark, thank you very much for your 32 years of service. I got to meet you becoming a commissioner, although other elements of my family have known you much longer. Your impact in the community will be long. I was watching the movie The Intern with Robert De Niro, and he mentioned about working at a plant. And he goes, I remember when those 2 oak trees were planted. And there are going to be people in this community who remember that, and that's your work and your touch on the community. So while folks may be a little bit angry that current 40-year-old tree is no longer with them, 40 years from now, someone else will be looking at it and say, boy, this is a really great tree, and I'm glad I got it here. So the other aspect is we talk about trees with you all the time because you're an arborist, and that seems to be what the community most knows you about. However, you get the fields lined. You help Babe Ruth get their season going. You touch every part of the Parks and Rec here, and folks don't really see that. You're behind the scenes. You keep it moving along, and I know I want to thank you for that, and I think a lot of folks on the Youth Sports Council would feel the same way. So thank you for that service. Enjoy your retirement, well deserved. I retired from the military 10 years ago. It was about a month before I started feeling like this vacation is just a little too long. I hope you don't have that feeling. I hope you enjoy and be able to pursue, what makes you happy. So all the best. Meredith, thank you for the conversation, the nice, frank conversation about what the priorities should be. Open dialogue, I think, is important for everyone. So Commissioner Lewis, while you have a different opinion, all opinions matter. And we will then poke all the boundaries of whatever the topic is, be able to sit back, reflect, and come to a better decision. So despite having a different view of things, we need to embrace those. So never once, I know personally, I'm not offended at all. Just wanted to poke the trade space and figure out where we're at and go from there. And I know, knowing you for probably a better part of 10 years now, it's you. It's who you are. I've got my characteristics. I don't think I fool anybody here. Mr. Moda has his reputation. Mr. Davis, Commissioner Farfan, you being a newer member of the community, you'll figure this out. Wish the police chief were still here and welcome Andy to the town. Thanks.
Perfect, and thank you. For myself, Ella O'Neill, every time I see her, I just can't believe that, first of all, she doesn't have a microphone. Second of all, she's just puts it out there, and it's so good. So I want to thank her for the obvious performance, and I know she does a great job. And Mr. Moda, I know you're all over it. I have to work a lot of weekends, so it's hard to get to them, but I'm going to try. With that, I want to thank the ladies from the Moms Club. I'm sure we'll hear from them in a few minutes. But it's nice to hear people from the community come out and tell us what they're thinking and why they're thinking it. So I know what you saw tonight probably isn't the exact result you're looking for. Just understand that nothing happens slow within government. I've been a part of government for 37 years, and it still baffles me on some stuff. But you'll see that it's not for a lack of caring or a lack of desire to get something done. We just want to make sure we do the right thing within our community. As we move on, Meredith, truly, sitting down on this list was really kind of eye-opening to me. I've been on this commission for 2 years, and it helped me really focus on, I think, the things that are important within the community and gives us goals and a structure. And I think that's going to help us do our job better. When you act, is it going to change anything? I think it's hopefully just going to make us more efficient and get what we think the community wants into place. So thank you very much. I know it's a lot of work, and I know they're asking for a lot of special stuff right now where you have 2 very large projects going out there, and it's just, I mean, I'm just a little portion of both of those, and it makes my head spin sometimes. And, there's a lot to get done in a short time, and we're just trying to make the best of it. And to finish up, of course, Mr. Trujillo, I've been in this community for literally my 54 years. And I just got to meet you recently and really just think the world of you. I couldn't believe when I was going out to fill the booth for 4th of July, I walked by and there's Mark with a big old smile on his face going, just making sure the whole place doesn't burn up, almost about that simple. I'm like going, that's fair enough. That's probably something we should make sure doesn't happen. And it's just one more thing that you do that, even as I am, a portion of this community and in this, it's one thing that I'd never seen you do before and understand how much you do for us and how much you've done for us. I hope as you reflect, you know what it means to our community and the amount of respect we have for, our parks and how you've maintained them and how they come up, because you're the infrastructure of it. And thank you so much. So.
Can I add one really fast? We forgot, we all forgot to talk about another successful 4th. We didn't say anything about it. I was down at the park for 3 hours, saw all the water balloon tosses, all the games, all the stuff. I hid in the corner, so
spin the wheel,
so I could stay out of the sun and in the thing. But fireworks were great. I mean, anyway, same things we always say. But hats off to the staff overall. Another great 4th.
Perfect. And I think that concludes the commissioner's comments. Moving on. Public communications. I will now open public communications to 5 minutes or less. Please, if you could, I'd ask that you come up one at a time and just introduce yourself, and thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Amanda Feda. Just to speak to a couple points that came up regarding the fences. So first, I would say I would really encourage you to reach out to the Moms Club as well as the Senior Center, as you had mentioned. In our club alone, this is how the fence topic came up, is kind of evaluating what we all thought is needed in the community. And the fences is one thing that did come up, as well as, just to throw a couple other things out there, splash pads would be great for kids in the area, sunshades, just to throw that out while I'm here. To speak to the reason why we chose these 2 parks out of the 23 in the city is the sheer location of them. Like you said, I think you had mentioned like 23 feet or something from the street, and that is our major concern, that the safety. This is all about safety for the young children in this community, and there's so many young children in this community. The other thing I would say is, as you heard, the Moms Club is a very large group, and there's many children in the group, but we are also involved in the community with other people that aren't in the Moms Club at different various preschools, and this is a topic that across the board, people are talking about. The fences are needed, and when you're at the park, that's what comes up when you're just standing by another parent. It's an active topic that comes up. And the last thing I would say is just, I would encourage you, as it was said, to be proactive rather than reactive. And then this is the reason behind us being here, that we're trying to prevent something. I would hate to see something happen and then the fences go up. So that's what I'll end with, just to be proactive rather than reactive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Julia Lillis Cohen. Again, I wrote down a couple notes in response. One, the 23 parks, is that 23 playgrounds? I don't think so. And I mean, I would never suggest a fence around just one of the parks, but when it's a playground specifically where kids are not with their parents, they're this far away from their parents, climbing on structures, I think that makes a big difference. So I think when you say the slippery slope, and then this could lead to 23 other park or the other 22 parks asking for fences, I don't think that's what you should look at. Maybe just consider the other play structures. And honestly, even just the play structures that are for smaller kids, I would never advocate putting a fence around the big kid play structure at Rec Park. You know, there's the tot lot, and then there's the big kid play structure. I think only things that, like, where there's little kids that are going to be running around. So I think that was one thing. Another, just from like my memory, and I just looked on Google Maps, I think if we're actually talking about what you said, the immediate residents around these parks, I think Hilltop, I think there's literally 4 houses across the street from where a fence would be, or like 4 residences. And same with Holly, Kansas. I think it's 2 on one side, or maybe 2 on one side and 3 on the other side. So if we're talking like immediate people who are going to be staring out their house window, I think that's a pretty small number of people who will happen to look out this window and see a fence. Third, regarding the aesthetics, I mean, can't we just look for better looking fences? I mean, I know we talked about looking for better looking fences, but if a big problem is like what the neighbors think, I think like a cute white picket fence, although it might be more expensive, maybe that would be worth it. Also, I just know that for me personally, if I was one of the neighbors in these areas, I think I would hate a bunch of speed bumps in the area a lot more than a fence. So I think that would probably be a bigger problem. And talking to you, Commissioner Lubes, talking about how you think parents, this is paraphrasing because I'm not exactly sure how you said it, but like that you think you were at these parks with your kids and it wasn't that hard and you were keeping an eye on the kids. I do think there is something to be said about like the rose-colored hindsight glasses that you may have with a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old currently. I don't know anybody who would go to the park with my 2 kids and think that it was not super anxiety causing. I mean, I even think like as parents, just as kids keep getting older, and I even look back and think like, oh, newborns aren't that hard. I mean, if you asked me that a year ago, I would not have given you that answer. So I maybe consider that there's some of that clouding your vision on that. Also Hilltop, you talked about how close that part is to the street. The other problem with Hilltop is the part of the play structure that's closest to the street is actually for the smallest kids. So that's for the 2 to 5-year-olds. The other structure is for the 5 to 7, or I don't know, 3 to 7 or whatever it is. So it's like it's the even more vulnerable kids and the even more kids who are less likely to like listen to what you're saying and understand commands. It also is a hill that goes downhill to the street right there, which just even, it's like, Commissioner Davis, you mentioned like how quickly they can run away from you, but then when they have gravity on their side and they're heading down towards the street, it's even faster. It can happen pretty quick. And then the other thing that, I just want to echo what Amanda said. This would just be, it would just be such a tragedy if like we came back, the reason this ever someday got revisited is because there was a tragedy. And I don't know if having a fence up that maybe 5 neighbors look out the window and think is ugly is worth the risk of that. Yeah. And then also this is kind of semi-related, but now this just has to do with, you mentioned the how homogeneous this commission is. And I am one of the people who tried to get on this commission most recently and was not invited to. And I know that a lot of you, when asked, just according to the little piece in the Herald, it said a few of you were asked and said, I don't really think we need more people on the commission. At least that's what I said in the Herald. I don't know if your faces are making it seem like that was not the case. But I would say if that's still up for grabs, if for maybe adding people to the commission, I'm not advocating me, but I know there were 2 other moms moms of small kids who also interviewed for the 2 open positions. And I think this is one of those, like an example of, you said yourself, like, we're kind of a homogeneous group and some of these things weren't on your radar. It would be on your radar if you had some other points of view. But other than that, I think you guys are doing an awesome job. You're right, 4th of July was great, and congrats on your retirement. That's it. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Shireen again. I just wanted to thank you for really taking Shireen again, Sonnefeld. Yes. I just wanted to thank you all again for taking the time to consider putting a fence or some other safety measure in place around Holly, Kansas and Hilltop Parks. I understand that it is our job as parents to be responsible, and personally am a helicopter parent who is usually only 1 arm's reach away from my kids at all times just because of their personalities. But that being said, a ball could go in the street and they could run. An accident definitely could happen. And I am also partly here tonight because I have heard so much from the other moms, either in the club or through preschools, in the community, at the pool, at Hilltop, just talking about the need for how nice it would be to have a fence around the park. If there's anything that we can do to provide more information or, help gather information about community members that are interested, please let us know. We're passionate about it and we'd like to help. So thank you again for your time. Appreciate it.
Any other comments? With that being said, I now adjourn the Rexham Park Commission meeting.